Well, the good news is it wasn't cancer. But yesterday I did have an important appointment with my surgeon who has done a gallbladder surgery on me in the past, necrotic gallbladder, and who also saw me through a time when I was having TURP at the same time. But in this video, I just want to talk to you about what my symptoms were. I may have a little bit of details that will help you on some things. And if you're a little bit squeamish about talks about innards and that sort of thing, then perhaps this isn't the video for you. But what happened was I started to notice, this was about a year after I had I was out for about a year with 2 surgeries. That's what happened, and which caused me to be kind of laying around the house quite a bit. I had to wear a catheter once for 5 months, and I found after a couple hours that would just sort of cause me a lot of pain. So what happened was I didn't get the normal exercise, and I think this is what happened to me, and I think this is the cause. About 40 years ago, 38, 39 years ago, in my 20s, I had a inguinal hernia. And basically an inguinal hernia is sort of an internal one that goes down in the pelvis area. And like I said, this is going to be a little bit particular, and it kind of put pressure, kind of goes down in towards the scrotum. And so in my 20s, there I was going around with sort of enlarged on that side. Well, it was, not sort of, it was, which was very uncomfortable because I was going to college at the time. And well, I went and seen a surgeon. My surgeon in my home, I lived in a really small town, and I had moved to a bigger city. And the surgeon in my small town thought that this was just like a hydrocele, they call it, like fluid around the testicle or something. So him and this nurse did this local anesthetic, and what happened was they thought it was fluid, but it was unsuccessful because it wasn't fluid. They were poking into my bowel. So later when I went to college, I had a follow-up with a nurse practitioner or doctor in the city, and then she set me up with an appointment, thankfully, with a surgeon who knew what he was doing. And this surgeon did all the tests, laid me down, pressed here, pressed there. And what happened was he took me in afterwards, clothes back on, whatever, and go back out to the desk, and he says, "This is what you got, and this is what you need." And so I had the surgery. Back then, my surgeon from yesterday said, highly doubtful they used a mesh. Now what they do now is they use this titanium mesh or something like that they put in to kind of help cover and protect that abdominal area. The inguinal hernia is basically when the small bowel starts to break through, I'm not sure if it's a diaphragm, but it's kind of like the muscular area down there. It starts to break through, and then it goes down into the pelvis. And it's not like you see this bulge around your belt area. That's a different hernia. So anyway, which apparently, I'll get to that. So I was having troubles on the other side as well. This is on my right side. And on my left side, I was noticing that during my regular trips to the washroom, there was a swelling there, and about maybe 20 minutes to a half an hour prior to going to the washroom, it was very, very hard. Just below the belt line on the left side, and like a hard lump. So my doctor suggested there could be impacted feces in the sigmoid colon. Maybe I've lost you here, but the large colon goes out, and before everything's finally gone through the rectum, there is this goosenecky bend of a colon, and it's called the sigmoid colon. And she said, well, you definitely have, she said, you have an inguinal hernia on the right side, which is where I had one in the past, like I had said. But it, it just turned into this this thing where when I went and saw the surgeon yesterday, he examined both parts, and I said, do I have another hernia on the other side? He said, yep. He said, you've got 2 hernias. So here's my decision I have to make, and you guys are welcome to give your opinion. the surgeon told me all the risks, the 4% chance of this, 2% chance of that. Like, you can have nerve damage from a surgery, you can have bleeding, everybody heals differently, so you could be left with scar tissue, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He said in this case, I got the impression he couldn't do a laparoscopic one on the old inguinal hernia. He'd have to do an incision. So this is what I call my incision decision. Right now, TMI, I have purchased a hernia belt, like a strap that goes down. It kind of helps strengthen your abdominal region, Even though I work out every day, like light weights and do push-ups and all that, this happens over time. And I do really believe, I told him I had lost, because of the necrotic gallbladder, I had lost something like, it was 45 pounds, at least 45 pounds. At one point I thought it was 50, but it was 45 within 5 months. So that was I thought I was going to die. That's a whole different story. But I do believe that weight loss, the inactivity for a year, and then getting back to things. I had to have a colonoscopy right after my TURP surgery because they found blood, turned out to be polyps. I know, TMI. So I've had a lot of good news, bad news, good news. It's like, so the surgeon said yesterday, he said, yeah, it's only been a year or so since you had the colonoscopy. It's not colon cancer. He said, what you've got 2 hernias. So a hernia over the sigmoid colon, it feels like I suppose when the material goes through, I'm going to say that politely, material goes through the colon before it goes into the rectum to go out in the world. It feels like and I'm not telling you this could be your situation or not. You may have something totally different. But just down in that area on the left side, just below your belt, between the crevice in your leg to maybe your belly button area, there's a hard lump, like just sometimes before passing stool, to be blunt. And that turns out, and it's not always, but it's sometimes, that turned out to be the second hernia. It's not as big. He said he could fix that one in 30 minutes. But the other one, he said, because it's complicated, it goes down over the pelvic bone, inside and towards the scrotum. He said that could be 2 hours at least. So you're looking at, a long surgery for both of them. He said, he assured me, he said, you're okay right now. And I asked him, well, what about, if I'm still around 5 or 10 more years, do my risk factors go up? He answered by saying he had just done surgery on an 88-year-old man. So I guess it all depends on how fit you are as you age, what your success rate could be. So this is just kind of a health update. It wasn't cancer. I have to make this decision. I have a year. I don't necessarily have a year, but within a year's time, I can go directly to the office and I can say to him, I want the surgery. Now, like I said, I had spent that whole year in 23 and 24. I went through 2 major surgeries, colonoscopy, and it's like, you're out and out and out. And I'm like, he says, you're okay. You're fine right now. If you can live with it, he said, a lot of people live with it. If you can live with it, then he suggested I do for a time. He said, but you can always call the office back within a year and without going through your doctor, and we can set up the surgery if you find it's too much aggravation. So I'm hitting to be 62. I'm going to be 62 in a month. And this is kind of a major decision for me, something I have time to think about. But the way I'm looking at it, I'm going to see how much trouble it gives me, how much pain. Sometimes you do feel nausea because any pressure, guys will understand. You get pressure on one of your boys, we'll call it that, and it can cause a very nausea because the nerves are very sensitive in your abdomen, and any kind of pressure on like the testicle or whatever can actually, what do they call it, refer up or whatever through your abdomen. And so this can leave you in a state of, feeling nauseous. So sometimes I get that. Sometimes it's very, very uncomfortable sitting down because it feels like, and like I said to him, I said, right now I wasn't wearing my belt for the exam, but I said, it feels almost like you've got, 2 fingers and they're pressing on the area. So it's kind of, I'm aware of it. It feels like a little bit of sack of fluid almost down there. That's what it feels like. And maybe I'll adjust to the feeling. He said, sometimes they settle out some. They don't heal, but they settle out some. And he basically left it with me, but assured me I was okay. as long as I was close to, I wasn't going to the deepest, darkest continent of Africa or the Arctic, he said I would be okay in case an emergency arose, because there is this fear that, your bowel can kink and strangle. But he said it's very rare. He said it's very rare that happens. I know someone watching this may say, oh yeah, it happened to my uncle or whatever. But statistically, it is rare. And if you're near a hospital, you have the option of emergency surgery. That part doesn't sound good, but at the same time, the part of going under, having two hernias fixed, the possibility of having a little bit of nerve damage, which would mean you might lose feeling in an area, like just in, like on your skin might feel numb all the time. And so, yeah, here we are approaching, in my 60s, way more health issues than I thought I was going to have. I always saw myself as quite active and fit, but things are genetic, passed down. And for a lot of some of my work life, I did a lot of labor type work, which is a lot of heavy lifting. And perhaps that led to it, and perhaps it's just something that happens. Because in my 20s, I wasn't doing, well, I did do a little bit. I had some jobs that required, physical labor. But yeah, it's a thing. So this is just a little brief update. I'm glad it's not cancer, but I still have a decision to make. What would you do? Would you wait the year, see how it goes? Wait 6 months, see if you can live with it. I really don't want to go through surgery again right now, but it is uncomfortable. You're sort of aware of things down there. At least I have been for the last several months since the symptoms started. They started as sharp, just to let you know, started as a sharp pain. The old inguinal hernia, sort of near the appendix area, started as a kind of a sharp pain, and I thought it was just gas or something I was eating going through the bowel. And then on the left, it was very much like that too. I thought, well, I've got diverticula. Those are little polyps-like type things. And I thought, well, one's probably inflamed or bothered, and I'd get sharp pain there. But they wouldn't last, and they would go away. And I'm thinking, okay. But then it just sort of kept going to the point where I realized, well, actually this summer I was processing 6 quart of firewood, piling it, lifting it, throwing it in the basement. And it was very hot, dry summer, as many as you know. And then I realized that things started to get really sore, and I started to put an ice pack down there on my right side and take an ibuprofen. I said, something's up. So I had my appointment yesterday. That's where I'm at. What would you guys do? Would you just immediately get that surgery done regardless of the risks? And why? Or would you wait it out? He said a lot of men have it, live with it. Some men don't even know they have one. But the inguinal one is kind of more noticeable because it kind of travels more in a way. Whereas the one on the left side is probably more just kind of pushing through the surface a little bit. Only at times. Leave it there. That's it. Wasn't cancer. Health update. Maybe you can find this useful to some of your own issues. And I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about this on this program. But being semi-retired, being in my 60s, facing these things I didn't know when I was younger, gee, I wish I had prepared more, you just think you're going to be on your feet all the time. Anyways, it's long enough. See you in the next video. I'm Kevin. Thanks for watching. And this is Silver Hill. See you in the next one.